The Rings of Power is an epic on every single skill. Roll the thing. The Rings of Power was released on the 1st of September 2022, and it's based on The Lord of the Rings and Appendices by J.R.R. Tolkien. Now, for a little backstory, there is the real life one and there is the one that involves the lore of the entire Lord of the Rings. Now, for the real life one, Amazon spent an estimated, reportedly, about $715 million, maybe more, maybe less, plus or minus, but $750 million is a lot of money. And a whooping $250 million to buy the rights for Lord of the Rings in order to produce the Rings of Power. Now, one thing I would say I like about this, given the contract and the deal that they made, they are only able to make 50 episodes of this. So season 1 is most likely going to be 8 episodes. So we are looking at 6 seasons in total if they don't increase the number of episodes for the remaining seasons, right? So maximum is going to be 6 seasons, but it's I think it gives me a lot of hope to know that they've planned it out. So they planned out what the 50 episodes will be like, start to finish. And even though right now only season 1 is done and season 2 will begin production later on this year, and at the time of recording this review, only 2 episodes are out because Amazon was kind enough to bless us with 2 episodes on the first day. We already know how long everything is going to be, and I really do like that. Now, it was a lot of money that went into each episode. Checking online, you see that the one that had, I'll say, the crown for most money spent by episode was Stranger Things. The last season that was just released, we did a review. You can check that up here, right here on the channel. But then this one has a reported amount, as the Rings of Power has a reported amount of 58.1 million per episode, and that's a lot of money. Now you think about it and you'd be like, okay, with that money, there is a lot riding on this for Amazon, and I'm glad. The way I say it, it's like they really did put their money where their mouth is. They're like, it's all or nothing with this one, because you don't spend about $1 billion on something for mediocre returns. No, this is the kind of stuff that is going to be there now in 2022 and for posterity, like 10 years, 20 years from today. You are going to know that this was just something of such epic skill and it was worth the investment. And speaking of 10-20 years from today, I remember watching the first trilogy, Lord of the Rings. It was beautiful. The Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Towers, and the Return of the King. I mean, for any one of you that has watched it, watching the review, I bet you can remember all those good memories you had. I mean, this was like during my early teenage years, and I remember enjoying it so much. So one thing I will say this series captures is that grandeur, that greatness. Now, while you don't need any form of backstory, honestly, you don't need to know anything about the books. You don't need to have watched the first 3 because this is even a prequel. You don't need to have watched either The Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because when Galadriel starts the series, because she's the one that is narrating the story, when she starts the series, she actually gives a nice backstory, and you can just pick it up, season 1, episode 1, second one, and you understand what's happening in the series right from the get-go. And I think that was nice. So even with that, I think a little bit of backstory will help you understand a bit more, and I'm going to get into that. I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes on that. Now, what backstory am I talking about? Now, she mentioned Morgoth. Morgoth, whom Galadriel mentioned, is also known as Melchior, but then think of him this way. Now, if you're familiar with the entire Bible story, because in the story, Tolkien actually did believe in the way he wrote it. It took his inspiration from the Bible, actually. So there is the greatest being in the entire Middle Earth, in the entire Tolkien series. Everything is God, right? So there is a God, and he's the strongest one ever. So then, after God, the way it is in the Bible, Lucifer was considered the strongest of all the angels. Now that is Morgoth. He used to be Melchior when he was an angel, but now he's Morgoth. But then he saw himself as superior to every other one and every other angel, and he staged a revolt, the same way it happened in the Bible, Lucifer. So he staged a revolt, but then it was casted down, and that was how he came to earth. And like that same story, that part of the Bible, it applies the same way also in the Lord of the Rings franchise. So now Morgoth is the one who started the problem. He came to earth, and his power disseminating, causing evil left and right, and his most loyal tenant is Mordor. Now, Mordor is the one who the entire Lord of the Rings in the Third Age, Frodo, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and all the others. So that happened in the Third Age, but this is set in the Second Age, where Galadriel is younger, but younger is younger in quotes, because elves with their long lifespan is something that I've missed seeing, and I did enjoy seeing again. And it was good to also see Elrond. Now, from the movies, Galadriel was played by Kate Blanchett, but yeah, she's played by Morbid Clark, and also we have Elrond also here. So they've been friends for centuries upon centuries upon centuries. So the Galadriel we got to see in Lord of the Rings, this is how we get to see her story. This is her story of how she became such a force of nature in Lord of the Rings. And even though in Lord of the Rings, not a lot of spotlights was on her, but then you would notice the time she was on screen, she was a force of nature. She was made to look like a big deal. When she was with Frodo and the rest of the gang, she was made to, it was clear that this is a boss. So now this is like the story of how she became a boss in a way. And that's a part of the story that I was also really liking. And then we move to the part of the Half-Orcs. Now the Half-Orcs they're one of the three races of hobbits, but they're also hobbits in a way. So getting to see the Half-Orc story arc. So the stranger who fell into the areas with the hobbits, the Half-Orcs with Nori. The way I say it, I sincerely hope that they are not going to just go the cheap route and make it look like that is Gandalf. So here's the thing, the Maya, they are pretty much essentially responsible for the creation of Earth, right? They are like angels in some sort of way, but they take the form of wizards when they are on Earth. Even Sauron was a Maya until they pulled a Darth Vader on the entire Maya and went to work with Sauron, and they went to the dark side. But then the Maya are essentially, they are creators. They were sent to help Earth defend itself against Sauron and his forces, who also stemmed from Morgoth. So I would not think that is Gandalf, but I would think maybe he's also a fellow Maya, so he's Gandalf's colleague, brother, co-worker, that kind of thing. That's what I think this is. And now, speaking of grandness and scale, this entire series is grand. It is big, and I know the first two episodes were just scratching the surface, and there is so much more to come. But then it's grand in its storytelling, when it shows you the maps, when it shows you just how big this area is to this area. But even in all that grandness, the story is so well told that you will not feel lost. It's not at any point. Every scene is deliberate, every action, every dialogue, everything is deliberate. And even the characters that either you are a returning viewer like me, that you are seeing again, but you're maybe seeing a younger version of them. And whenever I talk about younger version, I'm talking about the elves, because the elves are the ones that you will see the generational versions of them. So whether it's the elves or it's any other character whom we're just seeing for the first time, it's put in a way that just feels so organic that you will not feel lost. This series is so good, and like, I'm not joking, it's so good, and the quality is so great that if Amazon said, everybody, we are releasing new episodes every Friday, and instead of watching it in your houses, on your system, on your phones, which honestly feels like an insult, go to the cinema to watch it. I don't think it's overkill. It is that good. I can't remember the time I actually felt this way watching something, where I felt like I had like an 100-inch screen in front of me and like some kind of 9.1 surround sound, Dolby Atmos kind stuff, just to enjoy how grand and beautiful this entire thing is. And that's something that they have done well. Amazon has put their money where their mouth is. It's just such an experience, such an epic ride. The episodes with the introduction of the characters, the introduction of the antagonist, because now we are saying that the orcs, and this entire series, the title is The Rings of Power, right? And we know that and if you don't know, from Lord of the Rings had already been created, and now we are seeing what the aftermath is. In order to understand it a bit more, the rings were created, and that's why we get introduced to Celebrimbor. Now Celebrimbor is a master smith. If you've seen this, you know it. If you haven't, Celebrimbor, and honestly, there are no spoilers here, to be honest. And that's the thing. I think that's something I also like about this. You already know what has happened, so there really isn't much of a spoiler. But at the same time, there is a need for a backstory. So Celebrimbor is a master smith, and that's why when it was mentioned to Elrond was like he's a legend. So Celebrimbor is the one who created the rings, and they were given to different leaders of the different races. So 3 went to the elves, I think 5 went to the dwarves, different dwarven leaders, and 7 went to the human leaders. Now, what happened was Sauron sneakishly created one more ring, and that was the ring to rule them all. So with that ring, he was supposed to have dominion over all the different leaders of the 3 major races. That's the humans, the elves, and the dwarves. And then yes, that's how all the stories went. So and also if you've watched The Lord of the Rings, you remember that Galadriel, older Galadriel, played by Kate Blanchett, had the ring. So she also had a ring, right? She does not have a ring yet. She's not a queen yet. She's not all of that yet. So the Rings of Power is definitely going to show us a story of how she becomes that person who has the ring and has the power and has everything. But right now, we are watching Galadriel's story and how she becomes mainstay, and then we are getting to see all the other different characters and how they became what they were, and we're getting introduced to new characters, and I am just loving the ride because there's just so much. There are moments when I'm watching it because I've seen the movie before, and then I'm like, aha, so this is why that is that. Even in episode 1 and episode 2, you're already seeing stuff like that, and there's just so much that I know they are already going to bring to us because of my understanding of the entire lore. And funny enough, even with all I've said in this review, there is still so much that I know I don't know about the Lord of the Rings, about the things that Tolkien has written, right? But then I like this content that it's so packed that there is just so much to flesh out, you understand? So it feels like that Russian door where you open one, there's another one, you open another one, there's another one, you open another one. So it's like a gift that keeps on giving. And that's what this series is. Honestly, so far I have enjoyed episodes 1 and 2. I'm looking forward to watching the other 6. The other ones are going to run every week on Prime Video, so it's every Friday. The way I do it on this channel is I review the pilot, or if it's the first 2 episodes or the first 3 episodes that are released, and then I'll review the rest when the series is done. So most likely I'm going to be doing the final review in October. I'm excited to binge it because I will, and I intend to watch it on the bigger screen, because watching it on my screen, on my system screen, it felt a bit like an insult to it. I mean, this was just too good, honestly. But then overall, I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. If you've not seen it yet, you should check it out. It is worth every second of your time. It is an epic on every scale. Storytelling. Oh yeah, and not forgetting the sound. Whew, the sound is great, especially the scores. Like, it is an epic. No jokes. Everything about this series is great. It gets a 10 over 10. Episodes 1 and 2, really good. Brings you in well. Just lets you know that we are here to tell a very great and compelling story. And hey, with a budget of 58 million per episode, it's at better. So yeah, so far it's been good and I've really enjoyed it. Oh yeah, and alluding to what I said earlier about the duration of this entire series, right? Even the showrunner himself said, and I quote, "We even know what our final shot of the last episode is going to be." And that's what the showrunner JD Payne told Empire. He said the rights that Amazon bought were for a 50-hour show. So the storylines have already been completely mapped out, and that gives me a lot of confidence in the future of this series. Guys, I really enjoyed making this video. I enjoyed watching the series. I enjoyed reviewing it, and thank you for sticking around this long. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Click the bell to get notified of our new content on the channel, and don't forget to check out this video or this video next to see some of our other very dope reviews on the channel. It's been Tech for GVNNaija. Live long and prosper.